Again, but I think what Howard's saying about reform, and I mean, I think me and Howard will be lockstep in this, because there's such a worrying amount of stuff coming out about reform, about lack of depth in policy. It's almost like they've got a campaign that's 100 miles wide and an inch deep. There's no depth there. And when we try to drill down on things like the net zero migration, we get kind of evasive answers. When I say, well, okay, so you're losing a couple of millionaires called Jeremy and Julian, and you're getting a goat herder called Abdul coming in and his wife and 16 kids, and they don't really have an answer for that, because to me that's what net zero migration is. And so I think reform have a really big problem with policy and depth of policy. Big, from what I can tell, there is, and it's not because he's a Muslim. From what I can hear, there's massive problems with Zia Yusuf. Okay, and obviously, I suppose it's hearsay is one thing. Whether that's true or not is a different story. So I think Ant Middleton would be a great candidate for London Mayor. I'd love to see him win it. I'd love to see him win it for reform. Why not?
Yeah. I'm gonna stick up for reform a bit, because we've got to balance this out a little bit. And you guys know that I have the similar concerns. For me, I've got to be honest. They still represent our best chance. They'll be 100%. Getting my vote. And that's the way it is for me. I mean, look, I care about the country more than I care about personalities. Howard, look, you have been so much closer to this than we have. What Rich has just mentioned there, do you share those fears, or can you allay those fears a little bit for us? Is Nigel having to play the long game and just having to be Mr. Sensible to try and get that middle ground vote? We spoke about this the other night, didn't we? Yeah. Do you think he is?
Well, I am worried the way Nigel's doing what he's doing. He's moving a bit more centralist, rather as we need a centre-right person there. Yeah. But my hope is when you've got Lee Anderson and Rupert Lowe, those two guys are superb. Rupert Lowe is outstanding, and I'm going to say it, I reckon he should be leader of the party. And I'm not alone with that. There's thousands of people telling me the same thing. Nigel is still the consummate professional, great communicator, and he is popular. But
here's the thing. Sorry, Howard, cutting across you there. Here's the thing, right? I mean, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm going to defend Nigel and reform here and say, look, is it possible that this is their plan? Look, Nigel is the most well-known politician in the country.
Yep.
He's got the support of your average granny and grandma at number 55 and at number 27. But they wouldn't know Rupert Lowe if he came up and kissed one of their babies, right? So is it, well, let's get Nigel in the number 10, and then Rupert can take over, and happy days.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be brutal. I accept what you're saying, but there's 4 years to the election. Unfortunately, we've got scared Labour people, MPs, who will not vote. The only way you can get rid of them is a vote of no confidence. And there's not one MP who's going to vote, turkeys for Christmas. They're not going to do that. So we've got to live with the fact that it's going to be 2029. Could be a bit earlier, maybe 28. But the fact, fundamentally, Nigel's got a long time to actually build this relationship. But Rupert Lowe will be, people get to know. You think about it, there are 5 MPs, probably the 4 MPs of them. I mean, James McMurdoch, you don't hear much about him. He was a paper candidate, and he was lucky to get in. He got in by about 25 votes, I think, which is good luck to him. Well done. But
apparently he's a good lad. Apparently he's a very nice lad. Apparently.
Well, yeah, absolutely. He is. He's a good bloke. I've met him a few times, but if you'd stood there, Paul, you would have won. And if I'd stood there, you would have won. That's the point. Whereas people like Lee Anderson, who actually talks the talk, there's no doubt about it. He stands up for principles. I mean, he's moved from Labour to Conservative to Reform. We know that. And he really has a go at Sadiq Khan in London. I love that. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Rupert Lowe also stands up and supports. Is strong support, but he defends Tommy, and for him to do that. So to answer your question, this is long game with Nigel. I was on a show the other day. In fact, it's coming out this week with Liam Tuff's thing later this week, and I make the point that I think Nigel should come out and apologise for what he said about Tommy, particularly about his violence against women and stuff. And which is, we all know is a total lie.
Untrue,
if he did that, and he said sorry for, and Richard comes out and says sorry for calling that lot. If we got rid of that, I tell you what, there'd be they're a shoe-in for government.
Yeah. Here's the thing, Danny, right? I agree with everything that Howard said there, but here's the problem. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but I was watching Farage being interviewed by Sky earlier on, Sky News, right? And boy, did they try to get their gotcha moment with him talking about Putin. Did you see it, Howard?
No, I didn't, but I heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, talking about Putin and Ukraine, and they're looking for that gotcha moment where they can say, told you so, Farage is a Putin supporter. He never said that at all. You have to listen to what the man's saying. So this is the point, Danny. Is that, like, for me, I would love to see Nigel come out and be a bit more radical, if you like. Step a bit closer. Step over to the right a little bit. Instead of taking a step to the left, take a step to the right. But unfortunately, when we look at the election results coming through now in Germany, which are not looking as good for the AfD as we'd all perhaps hoped for, is that a lesson for us there? Is that, I mean, Nigel will perhaps turn around and say, look, boys, Lee, I know what I'm doing here. You know, if I take that step over to the right and, you know, start talking a little bit more like the AfD, like a bit more like Rupert, is that going to be too much for the middle ground that I believe will win the election?
They say general elections are won on the centre ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he knows what he's doing. I think Nigel does know what he's doing. I you know, he's done very well. He was Mr. Brexit, wasn't he, originally? And I believe he might, as you said earlier, Paul, that weren't a bad shout, you know, win the election and then bring in Rupert to take over.
I would have a, you know, having watched Nigel for many years. I mean, I joined UKIP in 2018 when Gerard Batten became leader, and I saw the way Nigel operated then. I don't think for a minute if Nigel becomes Prime Minister in 4 years' time that he's going to just go, there you go, Rupert, there's the keys, I'll let you have a go. Yeah. I don't believe that for a second. Right? I think that's just that's la thinking. And I think the AfD does have some problems with radicalisation. There are some proper ethno-nats within the AfD. So the AfD is not like Reform or even UKIP, which is, you know, dead against racism in any way, shape, or form. You know, it would be like a sort of amalgamation between, I suppose, maybe Reform and something like the BNP. That would be really what the AfD is. It's not as squeaky clean as, and of course the Germans are very, very liberal and lefty anyway. So, you know, it's just in their DNA. And you know, so I think Nigel could be more bold. And I think the reality is, to me, that's why I think Ben Habib's so important in what Ben's doing with the GB PAC thing. I think that's why right-wing Tory MPs are so important. That's why Pledge and UKIP are so important, because what that does, it constantly tugs at Nigel and all the people in leadership of Reform, saying, we're watching you, and we're not going to just go, it's okay. You can go into this election with very thin policies. You can go into this election not caring about demographics and deportations, which are needed, and we're just going to sit back and say that's okay. They need to be. I think they need their feet held to the fire all the time. And the reality is, the only party that has a chance on our side, has a chance of winning the next election, is Reform. Everybody knows that. But what we've got to try and do is find a way of dragging them, kicking and screaming, over to what I believe is the vast majority of British peoples, with, according to Matt Goodwin, about 70% of people agree with the policies that we want. And that's what we need to reform. And the other thing is that we're forgetting is, if we can get people really energized, like Howard was just saying there about getting the sort of, it was either Howard or you, Paul, you know, getting Nigel to move on the Tommy thing, then all those Tommy supporters, working class people, will in the right sense of the word, radicalise their friends and neighbours to register. People that never vote, register to vote, get stuck into the political process. And the whole Trump thing was, you've got to make it too big to rig. So yes, he's got to have a way of appealing to the centre ground, but at the same time, he's got to find a way of appealing to that lot, which is us, and getting.
Yeah, but Richard, I think I think Nigel and Tommy got it wrong right from the very start, and I'll tell you why. Going back to why I think Nigel's got this wrong with Tommy right from the very start, right? Because I think there is a case to say, I think to be fair, if he was to come out and openly support and back Tommy and invite him into reform, etc., I don't necessarily think that would do reform any favours.
Look, the thing is, Paul,
he has come round a little, hasn't he?
Yeah, but the point is, he pissed off everyone by saying what he said. He would have pissed off a lot of people by backing him. What he should have done was done what he did the other day. Just say, well, look, you know, I'm not his biggest fan, but you know, he's not being tricked. Just be fair. Just be sensible. Use a bit of common sense.
Say what Rupert Lowe says.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's and what Ben's been doing as well. It's exactly right. I mean, the reality is, it was a massive own goal that was totally unnecessary, and that's the problem. That's, you know,
massive own goal.
He's not understanding the popularity of Tommy in the country. I mean, you know, everybody.
Is that his fault, Richard? Is that his fault?
Yes, of course it's his fault.
Yeah, but what I'm saying
is, he's the leader of a political party.
Yeah, but Richard, what I'm saying is, the question's a bit wider than that. Is that his fault, or is it the people around him that haven't given him the right advice?
Paul, at the end of the day, the buck stops with him. Do you think Trump would make an error like that? No. JD Vance, no. And this is
I agree. I'm playing devil's advocate. I agree.
No, I know. And this is where we've got to say, the other thing is, Tommy doesn't want to join reform. All he wanted from Nigel was a bit of respect and basically Nigel having his back while he's in prison. And, you know, the reality is, none of them have asked a question at question time about Tommy, you know. And there's plenty of MPs,
you know,
independent unionists, independent, MPs that could be asking those questions. And there's those 5 reform MPs, and none of them said, why is this man being treated like he is in prison?
That's because there's no spying in Parliament, Richard. That's why.
And those independents, most of them are Muslim independents.
Yeah.
So they won't be Tommy fans, will they?
No.
Well, do you know what? I'll tell you something. This is where I think they missed a trick, actually. If they wanted to earn a bit of respect, wouldn't it be nice to see one of those Muslim MPs stand up and say, look, you know what? I'm not his biggest fan, but this man is not being treated properly. Because I tell you something now, I would do that if I was a member of Parliament and there was a Muslim that was being treated hugely unfairly, like Tommy is, for what he has done. I would stand up and I would defend them. But they won't. They're human beings.
Well, Paul, do you know what? That happened to me, not that I was in Parliament, but I was a manager in a business a few years ago, and obviously the boss knew my views on radical Islam and so on and so forth. And there was a Muslim guy in the office, and basically there was a disciplinary taking place. And my boss thought, this will be easy. This will be a shoo-in. We'll put Richard on this and Richard will flip and get him down the road. When I heard the case, I went, no, hold on a minute. This guy's the one that's been discriminated against, not the other way around. Turned the tables on the thing. And, you know, because it doesn't matter what I think about radical Islam. This guy was a human being who's been treated badly in a company that I worked for. And I wasn't going to let that happen. It didn't do my career much good, I can tell you. But the reality is,
the principle.